I think we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
All right, welcome everyone to Genealogy 101 with Joan Wiggins. I am Becky Dietrich, Assistant Vice President for Advancement and a member of SU's class of 1992. Before we get started, thank you to those of you who submitted questions ahead of time, and we will do our best to answer them during and after the presentation. But if you do have additional questions, you can feel free to submit them in the Q&A feature at any time. And it's my pleasure to introduce David Getz, who will introduce tonight's presenter. Dave is a 1978 graduate of Susquehanna University, where he majored in political science. He is a member of SU's Alumni Board. Dave went on to earn his law degree from Dickinson School of Law, and he is an attorney and shareholder at Wicks, Wenger, and Widener in Harrisburg. As a student, Dave was in ROTC, symphonic and marching bands, university choir. He was the news editor for the Crusader, which is the predecessor to the Quill. He was in SGA and Phi Mu Alpha Symphonia. And now I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thanks, Becky, and welcome everybody. It's great to have so many people here. There are over 100 people on here today. Going to learn a little bit about genealogy, and we want to welcome all of you, especially those from Joan's class of 74 and my class of 78. In addition to the alumni who have joined us, we have a number of staff members from the Office of Advancement, Melissa Kimura, who's Vice President for Advancement, along with Devin Rhodes and Chris Markle. We're also joined by Michael Dixon, who is the Chief Inclusion and Diversity Officer here at Susquehanna, Keisha Moore from the Career Development Center, Tammy Beers Franklin, an assistant softball coach, Eliza Stewart Beaver, Learning Support Assistant, and President Jonathan Green. Welcome, Jonathan. Joan Wiggins is a native of Philadelphia and was surrounded by music as she grew up. Everyone in her immediate family has a musical background. She attended Susquehanna University as a music education major, where she sang in the university choir and played French horn in the band. Upon graduation from Susquehanna, Joan was offered a job in Harford County, Maryland as an elementary vocal music teacher. She received a promotion to assistant principal after earning her Master of Science degree from Towson University. She later received her school leader's licensure acknowledgement. Joan served as an educator for 32 years and retired from William Paca Old Post Road Elementary in 2007. For you history majors, William Paca was a signer of the Declaration of Independence and later served as the governor of Maryland. In her retirement, Joan volunteers at the Bel Air Rehabilitation Center, Historical Society of Harford County, and reads to kindergarten students in the county. Using her skills as a pianist and vocalist, she later joined Ames United Methodist Church in Bel Air and served for many years as the choir director of numerous choirs. Currently, she is the owner and instructor of Melodic Melodies, where she teaches private piano and voice students. In addition to teaching, Joan serves as the church musician at Cokesbury Memorial United Methodist Church in Abington. Joan has been married to Harold Wiggins for 16 years. They have 5 grown children and 11 grandchildren. Fellow Susquehannans, if we were in person, you could applaud as Joan begins her presentation. Joan, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Dave. And welcome to all of you, especially my class of 74. Wow, it's been like 47 years since we've been together, but I am so glad that you're joining us today. And I want to thank the opportunity that I have to share my little knowledge of Genealogy 101. And I'll tell you further in the presentation how I got started in genealogy. Also, a big thank you for those behind the scenes. It took some doing to get all of this together, so I appreciate all of their efforts. As we do the presentation, you're going to see a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm also going to take the time to give you a look at my own accounts with Ancestry and some of the other genealogical websites. So please excuse any errors. I've practiced and practiced and practiced to get this together. So I know it will run smoothly, but you know, there's always a little glitch somewhere in there. So just please bear with me as we do this presentation. So this is Genealogy 101. And I mean really one-on-one. We're going to start from the baby steps in order to show you a little bit about genealogy and how you may perhaps to do your family tree. I've looked at some of the questions. I believe that many of them may be answered in this presentation. So just sit back. You might want to take a few notes and just let's get started. Genealogy 101. I do have some background in genealogy. As you can see, I am a family historian of my Fletcher family reunion, the church historian at Ames United Methodist Church, and I volunteer at the Historical Society of Harford County. And so along the way, I've picked up some information about genealogy that I'm going to share with you today. But as a teacher, as an educator, you don't start something unless you know what it is. So let's find out, what is genealogy? So genealogy is a record of the descent of a family, a person, or a group. Now, most of us are going to look at groups or families when we're doing our genealogy, or persons, but it could be a group. For example, I am a member of Delta Kappa Gamma, which is the Society for Women Educators. So if I decided to do the genealogy of that group, I would have to do a lot of information about how it started and other things. So it could be genealogy of a group. So once you start genealogy, you become, as we call, a genealogist. So the genealogist is that person who traces or who studies the lines of a family descent. You can be as I call it, a baby genealogist, or you could be a person who is a certified genealogist. And that's someone who at the drop of a hat will know exactly where to go to do the family history. So you can be certified in genealogy. But right now, I'm just the one who's just learning and just trying to figure out what it is about genealogy. So I'm the baby genealogist at this time. So you need to have, we're going to talk about some goals. It doesn't make sense to do a presentation unless you know exactly what you're looking at. So our goals is to learn the strategies to begin a genealogical research. What do you need to do to get started? Where are you going to focus your attention? So we're going to learn those strategies. We're going to introduce you to 3 of the ones that I use, the ones that I am comfortable with, but that's not the only 3 that there is in genealogy. It's many more, but we're going to use the 3 that I have. And locate free and printable genealogical forms. I always go for the word free. So you're going to hear me say that many times throughout this session, free. If it's located on the internet and it's free, then that's what you're going to use. There's no need to pay for something if you can get it for free. And hopefully you will start your own family tree after we do this. And we're going to look at resources. What else can you use to do your genealogical research? What do you need? You're not going to wake up one day and decide, oh, I'm going to do genealogy today. It just doesn't work like that. You need to prepare yourself. So, of course, there's the need of a computer or a tablet or an iPad. That's if you're doing at-home research. However, when I first started, I found out the other areas to go to. So I didn't use the computer right off the bat. I started to go to historical societies. I went to research centers and state archives. And the first place I went to happened to be from a research history center in Maryland. And I started to dig and get information there. Okay, excuse me, my phone is ringing. I thought I turned it off, but I didn't. Next, you need a notebook or a binder, and that's to put all of your information in the binder and the notebook. Okay, I'm going to wait for that to stop. Good. In the binder, you'll need dividers and sheet protectors, because once you get your documentation, you'll need to protect that information and also divide up your family group. So your binder is going to get large, so you may need more than one binder. Of course, a printer to print out your information. If you have elderly members of the family, oral history is vital. So get a recording device and a video camera so you can do your oral history for your information. Online research programs such as Myheritage and Ancestry, even Google will give you information. Google Maps are perfect if you want to find a cemetery. Look through Google Maps. And storage. So once you start collecting your data, you have to have some place to put it. So in order to start, you need to have these things in place. So we're going to begin, and you're going to be a part of this. So find any kind of piece of paper that you just have around, any piece of paper. And I want you to name 2 to 3 generations of your family. Just jot the names down. It doesn't have to be in any kind of order. Just jot their names down. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And don't forget, it starts with you. So don't forget to put yourself down as you're naming these generations. And who all those people that are in your generation. So now let's see how you did and how many people you got. Genealogy always begins with you. You are the star. You are the most important person in genealogy. Why? Because you have the most information about yourself. So you are the star today. So when you're doing genealogy, you begin with yourself. So you're the first generation. Next, you probably would name your parents. So in your information now, you have at least 2 generations. You have yourself, then you have your parents. We're not interested right now in dates and all of that. We're just interested in the names. So now we have those of your family tree. And some of you can go back and name your grandparents. So if you look at this little small genealogical chart, you would have at least 6 people listed in your chart. So you have yourself, always start with you, go to your parents as your next generation, and the grandparents. Now, in most cases, there are 4 great-grandparents. I'm sorry, your grandparents, yeah. So you'll have all of that information. And so, because you have your parents, and your parents will have their parents. So we have 6 people. So now they're on a chart. They're not in any particular order. So now we're going to try to document what you have found. And so we should put it in some type of order so it's easier to look at. So your grouping may look like this. Oops, went too far. Hold on. All right, there we go. It may look like this. Down the bottom is you. Okay, it says proband, but we're talking, that's you. Then you're connected to your mom and your dad. That's your second generation here. And then you're connected to the grandparents. So it should look something like this. And so you might want to take time now just to draw something that looks like the connections that you see. And this is how I got started with genealogy, with something that looked as simple as this. Our family got together in 1984, and we met for our first family reunion. And we went down to a little place called 96 South Carolina, where my grandparents were born. Now, I had heard of 96, didn't know where it was at all. but I just knew that it was a place that existed. So when I went to that first reunion, I needed to find out, why am I related to these people that I've never seen before? Where does Joan fit into this grouping of family? So I took a piece of paper and I started to make a real crude looking family tree and just connected the lines as best I could. Then the next family reunion, I took this piece of paper, took it back and started writing again, figuring out who they were. And then I could ask them questions of maybe some dates of who their parents were. And eventually it evolved into my becoming the historian, because I always had the information. And as I learned more about genealogy, I was able to find more information through Ancestry and through other means. But this is how it started for me, just a very simple way of writing it down and documenting. So this is where you start. Now, you don't have to just use your own piece of paper. There are documents or forms that you can use. So one of the first forms I'm sharing is a pedigree chart, a 4-generation pedigree chart. I highlighted you. This is where you would start. And of course, you have your name, your birth date, your birthplace. If my fingers are moving too quickly here. There we go. Your birth date, your marriage, and marriage place, if you have that information. Then you branch off into your parents. Then you go to your grandparents and eventually your great-grandparents. When you get to your great-grandparents, this is probably where you're going to need some help to some other genealogical websites. But let's go back a few minutes. When you do your ancestry, there are some terms that will be easy for you to find information. So when you do your father, everybody on his side will be your paternal grandparents and your paternal great-grandparents. So when you're giving somebody information, when you say the word paternal, they'll know you're talking about your father's side. When you go down to your mother and get information, that is your maternal side. So if I asked or told somebody I'm looking for my maternal great-grandparent, they'll know exactly where that line falls. So this is one of the charts or forms that you can easily download. And if you look at the top, it came from the National Genealogical Society, a free form. So you would fill this out, put it in your binder and mark it underneath whatever tab that you wanted to. And it could be your pedigree chart if you want. So that's one of the charts that you can get that is free. Another chart is your family group sheet. I love this one. And again, I got it from the National Genealogical Society. And this chart helps me to find out more about the children in a family. I've used this for my aunts and uncles. So when I put the information in, and some of it I could get from my pedigree chart, but when I put the information in, they also add down here buried. You didn't see that on the pedigree chart. So if they are deceased, you can put the burial place there. And then it has the wife. It also asks about other marriages because, as we know, everybody's not just married for the first time. Sometimes there's another marriage. And it also lists the children. I believe there's up to 7 children that you could add to this chart. So when I used this chart, I was able to document my cousins, and then their children were also on this chart. So this is the family group sheet that is very easily found on the National Genealogical Society. So you go to that website, look for free forms, and go ahead and download that. This last sheet here is the research worksheet. I know it's tough to read that, but it has not only the name, but it has a section that calls the variants of a name. When we get to look at the census records, you will find that spellings of names are very, very different. My family name is Fletcher. I've seen it written as Fletch. I've seen it written as Fulcher. I've seen it written a lot of different ways. So you will write down those variants because that's what you might want to do in your search. It asks for social security number. It asks for a description. It asks for occupation. This is nice to be able to fill out so you can really get to know your ancestor well. So this is for a single ancestor, and you can fill out all the information on them. So again, this would go in your binder, and when you're searching, you already have some clues to help you. And it's all about the clues to get you to find that ancestor. Now we're going to look at each of those websites. So we're going to start with Ancestry. And I'm going to share, here is my Ancestry tree, my tree on Ancestry.com. It's nice to be able to see how it's grouped on the tree. So here I am. I started with myself, of course, and then I added other family members. So it shows me right here, and you'll notice it has living. So all of my ancestors on this page, except for one, is currently living. Now, it shows me connected right here in the middle. Now, this is my former husband who has passed away. So you see his dates. Okay, and this is my current husband. Notice there's a leaf. You see these leaves. Ancestry helps you to find more information. So it starts digging for you. So if I hit that leaf, I will be able to find more information on James Beard. It could be something I already have. It could be something new. But these leaves are very helpful in Ancestry. But you start accumulating so much, you really can't keep up with all of them. Next to Harold's information, you see these pictures of a male and female. That means there's more information, or there's more information on my tree for Harold's family. If I was on the Ancestry site, I would just click it on and find, and it would populate for me. Right? So let's look now at the way it's panned out. Okay, so here I am. The line goes down and connects me to another line. Now you can see the connection here. That's my son. The next connection over here is my daughter. For some reason, I don't have her picture there. And then it continues over this way with the rest of my children. Now, here is Harold. And over, if you connect here, here are his children. I am not connected to them because biologically, I'm not connected to his children. I'm just a stepmom. So you can see how it's easy to be able to figure out if you looked at somebody's tree where the connections are. So let's go back over here. We go back to my son, Donald, and he has 2 children. Here's his son, Khalil. And if you notice, it's 2020. He's a little baby. He's like 2 months old. So I don't have his picture there. And this is his other son, Kyrie. So that's a little bit of looking at how Ancestry populates your tree. Now there's another line up here that you can't see, and that connects my sibling. This is my brother here. And then there's more leaves and more information. So that's what an Ancestry tree will look like. Here's another version of the same tree, but this time I'm going upward. So here I am in the middle. I have a leaf. There's some information. And I will tell you, well, I clicked on a leaf one time and I found part of Susquehanna's yearbook on Ancestry. And I saw myself playing in the band or the orchestra on Ancestry. So there's so much information that they give you on this website. But if you look up here, here again is my line coming from me, and it goes up. Here are my parents. And they both have a leaf. My mom is still living. She's 90 years old. And so that was taken, I think, at one of her birthday parties that we had. Now, continuing up from my dad and going across, here are my grandparents. And as you can tell, my grandmother has a leaf on and my grandfather has some information. Now, it's going from my father all the way over. There is his brother and information. So reading the connections are very important to find out who's who. So if you happen to look at someone else's tree, you will be able to understand the connections. Now on Ancestry, you're not going to be able to see the faces of somebody who's still living. They'll just say that's private on the tree just to preserve their privacy. So you won't be able to see all that. But if they are deceased, you'll be able to get the information from that. So that's Ancestry. Now, you've heard me say that word free, free, free. Please look for those sites that are free, that do not cost you anything. Sometimes you'll see a free trial for 7 days. They're going to charge you a fee. So look before you click on anything. Read the fine print before you sign up for the sites. In Ancestry, they have a link, many links in there, and one was newspapers.com, and there is a historical paper from the 1700s. And I clicked on it looking for information on an obituary, but I was stopped because you have to pay $7.95 a month for newspaper.com. So do some more research and see if you can find something that will give you the information free. So there is a site called Chronicling America that gives you information from newspapers. So do your research. Please look for free. I mean, it's amazing how much free information is out there for you. All right, so we're going to search using Ancestry, Myheritage, and Family Search. Those are the 3 search engines that I use for my research. We're going to research one human being. I thought it would be easier to take one person and then go from them on each of the sites. So I decided to pick Marion Anderson. Now, she is not related to me, but I knew that we probably would find information. Marion Anderson is a contralto, that's her voice type, an operatic singer who was born in Philadelphia in 1897 and passed away in 1993. So we're going to search for her records using all 3 of those. And to give you some background of Marion Anderson, if you didn't know, she, again, was born in Philadelphia, sang all around the world and in Europe. She made friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. And Eleanor Roosevelt wanted her to sing for the president, for President Roosevelt. And she was going to sing at the Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C. However, the Daughters of American Revolution, the DAR, did not permit her to sing because the only folks who could sing that time were white-only performers. And so Eleanor Roosevelt was very much disturbed about that. She was a member of the DAR, but she decided she was no longer going to be a member of the DAR. And so the agent that was working with Marion Anderson decided she would sing at the Lincoln Memorial outside, and she did. And so her performance, they had 75,000 people at that performance. And it's ironically, the Lincoln Memorial was like a few steps away from Constitution Hall, where she was barred from singing. So I just thought it was interesting to talk about Marion Anderson. So we're going to do a little bit of research on Marion Anderson. And so we're going to first start with Ancestry.com. Okay. All right, let me make sure it's coming up. Okay, here it is. Okay, hopefully you're seeing my Ancestry page. All right, Ancestry.com is one of the sites that is free. However, In order to really get into more research and look at the documents, you're going to need to pay, but you can start it with it being free. All right, we have at the top, we have the home screen, you have your trees, your search, your DNA, which I've done my DNA, and your extras. So let me click on that for a minute. And what I like about Ancestry is that they have how-to videos. Now take a look. You can go onto these sites and they will show you how to look at vital birth records, military records, newspaper information, negotiating wills, getting started on Ancestry. So you have many videos or resources to use to help you to get back and forth on Ancestry.com. So we're going to do a little bit of research on Marion Anderson. Now this is the search page, and you'll notice that it has also other services to use in Ancestry. But I'm going to come down here to search. I could do it this way from my page, or I can go right to search from this page. And it says all collections. So I'm going to go to the census and voter list for right now. Right. We'll talk about what the census is in a minute. All right. So under search, we're going to put in, oops. Oh, goodness. Here we go. Now I have a Marion in my family, so that's why that came up. Here we have Marion Anderson. Now, underneath what I just put in, you see the word exact and exact. If I happen to click that, they would look for all the same spelling of Marion the way it is and Anderson the way it is. But in the census taking, you will find out that sometimes the census taker got confused and you didn't have the exact information. So I never check the word exact. I always just leave it vague to let the Ancestry determine what they're going to find. Now, I know that she was born in 1897, but I'm not going to be exact also with that. So I'm going to put down 1895 as where her birth. She was born in Philadelphia. And as soon as I started typing, you can see that it gave me a drop-down list. So Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, I do know who her father is, but I'm going to leave that blank because I'm going to pretend I don't know anything else about her except that much. The gender and the race. And then I'm just going to click on search and see what comes up. Okay, so I have a Marion Anderson here in the 1900 census. As I'm looking at it, February 1897 is her exact birth date in Philadelphia. So now it asks me to view the image. Now, as I click, I get another link that gives me information that's in the census record, but it's a little bit easier to read this way. And I can print this out and put this in my binder. So it tells me that Marion Anderson was 3 years old in the 1900 census, where she was born. Now it says Virginia, not sure if that's correct, but in 1900, now she might have been born in Virginia. In 1900, she was living in Philadelphia. And it also, which is interesting, tells me what her street number was. So she lived on 1617 Fitzwater Street. Gives me her race, her gender, and now tells me that she is a granddaughter. Well, that again tells me that the person who was the head of the household at that time must have been her grandfather. Of course, she's single. Here's her father's name. Here's where her father was born. Here's her mother's name and where she was born. And we could look at her neighbors. But this is interesting. Right here, you see all the people that lived in that house. Now, obviously, that was a large house to have all those folks living in there. Now, this must be the head. He's at the front. This is Ben Anderson. He's 46. And then you have other folks. I'm assuming John, here's her dad, and Annie, here's her mom. Now, take a look down here at Maud Anderson. Now, I'm guessing, because I didn't really look in detail at the census record, that Maud is her sister. But now look at the age, 6/12. That means out of the 12 months of the year, she is only 6 months old. This is a baby of 6 months. You don't see anything next to Mary for some reason, and I don't know why. But these are all the people that lives in her house. Now, I can, because I have a subscription to Ancestry, I can click on now the census record. And here is the census record, a little bit hard to read, and sometimes you need a magnifying glass. But the nice thing on Ancestry is that they highlight who you're looking for. So here are all of my Andersons, and if I scroll over, it gives me the name. So I don't really have to decipher them myself. So here's Ben Anderson. He's the head of the household. He is Black, and as you can tell at the top, it does give me all the categories for the 1900 census. He's a male. He was born in September in 1853, and I keep going, and he's 48. And they've been married 28 years. This is her grandfather. And it has Virginia, and it keeps going on Virginia. And it goes to occupation. He is a day laborer. So I'm not sure exactly what he did, but he certainly worked with his hands. Keep going over. He can read, he can write. I have to ask that question. And he can speak English. He rented his house, and he lives in a house. And so we could do the same thing for all the rest of the family if we wanted to and find that. So this census record is very valuable information, not only for Marion, but those who lived around her. And it tells you who her neighbors were. Daniel Moore was one of her neighbors, and this other person, Eliza Banks, was one of her neighbors. So these are the people that lived on Fitzwater Street at that time in Philadelphia. It's important to know neighbors because some of the neighbors might also be relatives. Many times they bought homes or lived near each other, so they could also be relatives. So we have that information there. So in the 1900 census, here's the information that they're going to give you. It's a lot there. You notice it has immigration year. So if they were immigrant, that would be there. And also how many years they were in the United States. So that is our information on Marion. So let's talk a little bit about what the census means, because we've all taken census accounts. In fact, we just had one in 2020. Well, the first census happened in 1790. And in the first census, President Washington asked the Congress to count all those in the United States, and they did in the first census. Now, they didn't ask all the information that you see there. In the first census, they only looked for free white males who were 16 years or over. They looked at free white males under 16. They looked at free white females. All other free persons were counted. And then they had the slaves. In many instances, the slaves were just marked down by numbers. So I have 3 slaves, I have 5 slaves. We didn't really have names of the slaves back then. Until 1870 is where we finally see African Americans listed in the census record. And I found my relatives in the 1880 census. And those who are doing work with African Americans, you'll need to look at slave records or slave schedules. and it's tedious work, and you'll go back and you'll find people and you won't find folks. I'm looking for my grandmother, and I did find her in the 1910 census. She is missing. I can't find her in the 19 I'm sorry, I found her in the 1920 census. She was born in 1902. I cannot find her in the 1910 census. So I'm thinking she was with a neighbor and she just wasn't counted at that time. Census records are good. Every 10 years, we take a census. They are sealed. Census records are sealed for 72 years. So right now, when you're looking for family, we can only go up into the 1940 census. So if you have family members born in the 1930s, then you will see them in the 1940 census. Now, they're held or they're sealed for 72 years because that was the life expectancy of most Americans when they started doing the census records. So the 1950 census will be available in 2022. So next year, we'll be able to see those in the 1950 census. Now, I was born in 1952. I will not be in the 1950 census. I've got to wait till 2032 in order to see my name in the 1960 census. So the census are always usually taken around April. So depending on birthdays is you'll have to decide if they're in the census record or not. So it's every 10 years, they're sealed for 72 years. So that gives you an idea of where you'll find the census record. And again, now it's a lot easier when the census taker takes it instead of just writing everything by hand. But in order to read it, you're going to have to really decipher a lot of the information there in the census records. All right, so that took us through Ancestry. And I am going to go back to the PowerPoint. Now, you can do a free subscription to Ancestry. You'll be able to look at the card catalog. You'll take a peek at public members' trees. You'll look at the Ancestry how-to videos and go to YouTube and just put in Ancestry.com. You're going to get a wealth of information on YouTube. So again, everything doesn't have to cost you money. Go and use some of these free resources and able to find your information. Now, I do pay for Ancestry, but I'm only using the U.S. Discovery section. If you have relatives that were born overseas or in Europe and other places, you can get the all access membership. It's going to cost you a little bit more money, but you can certainly look up your relatives with that. So for Ancestry, it does cost to really do the research, but you can get a free subscription to Ancestry. You just cannot open up the documents at all. And this is, again, the Ancestry Academy information. All right, so we're going to move on to Myheritage.com. And Myheritage began in 2003 in Israel. To access documents in Myheritage, you have to have a subscription. And I'll show you what I mean by that later. But what I like about Myheritage is that I can do my family tree and invite family members to the site so they can add the information. You're not the only one who has to do the tree. Now, up to 250 members you can put on your tree. It's free, no problem. Go to 251, you got to pay. So I do have a subscription to Myheritage, and I do pay for that. But it gives you other things, again, beside the family tree. They will send you a list of family birthdays. as long as they're listed on your tree. So you get to see members of the family whose birthdays are coming up, or any events. I think I put our family reunion on there. And you can actually print a genealogical book or a poster from your tree in Myheritage. So I will share that with you. So I don't do Myheritage for the research. I do it for all the other perks that I can find in Myheritage. The price list again, here it is. The basic is free up to 250 members. Then you start paying. So I guess I paid the $129 a year, and I definitely don't have up to 2,500 people in the night right now. And then to access the historical records, here's what you're paying, about $189 a year. So since I already have that on Ancestry, I'm not going to go ahead and pay for something else. It just didn't make sense for me to do that. So let's look at Myheritage and see what's happening with Marion Anderson. Now here's Myheritage site. You look down here, I have 303 people on the site. I have 196 photos there. And I have matches. They do give you matches. Matches means they found your ancestor on somebody else's tree and they're trying to match it up together. So I have all those matches that I have not looked at right now. I'm going to go over to show you a little bit of my tree on Myheritage. And here I am in the middle again. And it does have those little, I guess, areas where you can expand your tree. And there's pictures, of course, with everyone. But so other family members can actually add on to the tree, which is such a nice thing to be able to do. I will show you under more what I meant with those charts and those books. So you can take any of your family members and they will be able to print out a book for you or information for you in any way that you want them to. Now, printing it out on an 8.5 by 11 paper is going to be really small. So I would do a big poster if I was going to share it with somewhere. And not only that, but you could do a book. If you really want to put all your information in a book, they could do that and share that for you. So I like that part of Myheritage. So I have that information there. And of course, there's DNA that you can do. All right, so let's do a little bit of research. We're going to search all records again. And we're going to search Marion again, and let's see if she'll come up. Okay, not all of it. All right, she does. I'm not going to do the exact year. Do 1895. Okay. All right, so I have Marion Anderson here, and I've got a lot of different ones. I have Marion Anderson, Florence Marion Anderson. So I'm going to click on the one that I think it might be. It's a 1930 census. I'm click on Marion. And I get stopped at this page. Since I do not have the subscription that's paid for, it will not let me pass this page. So I do not use Myheritage for any research at all because it stops me there, right? And I'm not willing to pay for all of that. But again, it's good for information for the other use that I told you about. But Myheritage is there. And if you want to pay for it, that's fine. You know, it would be good to have that if that's what you want to do. Okay, we're going to get out of that one. We're going to go back to our PowerPoint. And our final one that we're going to look at is Family Search. And Family Search is the one that is sponsored or organized by the Church of Latter-day Saints, and which is the Mormons. The site was launched in 1999, and of course, the Mormons are located in Salt Lake City, Utah. But Family Search is free. There's no cost to looking at any of the documents. And one of the reasons that there is such extensive work with Family Search is that the Mormons believe that their ancestors can be baptized, even if they're passed on, into the faith after their passing. So they do a lot of work in trying to connect families together and to keep that family bond solidified. So there is a lot of information that you will find from the Church of Latter-day Saints. And not only is it in Utah, but they have established family history centers all over the world. So you can go to a family history center if you Google and find out where it is near your home. They're free. You can look at microfilm. You can do research on the computer. There at the Family History Center, print out information, open to anyone. They have workshops, they have conferences. It's right there for you. So I would really encourage you to find a family history center near your home so that you could do some research there with Family Search. So let's find a little bit about what Family Search can do. Right now, I do not keep a big family tree on Family Search at all. It is very, very small. So we're going to go right here and do the search. We're going to look at records. There's images, genealogies, books. It's extensive, the work that you're going to find. So let's look up Marion again under search. Okay, ask for the state someplace else. There's a lot of Philadelphias, not just Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, there's a lot of other Philadelphias. All right, we're going to go to 18, again, I'm going to say 95 to 1898. I'm just going to give a range there. Now, I can search with her mother and father and all of that. I'm just not going to do that now. What country? It gives me the drop-down menu. And now it asks me for the state, and it's already there. So now let's search and see what we can find on Marion here. So now we get a couple of different sources. Here is one, 1897, which is her when she was born. Huntington, Pennsylvania, it could be, but, and the father and the mother match up. So if we clicked on it, we wonder if that's Marion in 1930. So let's find out now. Information tells me that probably not, because the race is not correct. And if I really scroll down, other information may not be correct too. I see a Hazel, a Jenny, and that's not what we saw before, all right? So we go back down, and this is why genealogy takes so long, because you really start going through name after name after name to try to weed out what doesn't belong to you. So I'm going to go to this one because it tells me granddaughter again. And this is the 1910 census. Now remember, we looked at the 1900 census a little while ago. So this is the 1910 census. 10 years later, she should be about 13 because she was 3 earlier. It matches up Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. Mother's name is Annie, that matches up. Benjamin, it matches up. There's another Mary. So this looks more like what we need to find out. So let's click on her and find out. And we're going to match up and see female, single. She's Black. She's the granddaughter again. And, oh, we see some familiar names. However, when I looked at this, I don't see Maud. Remember Maud was 6 months? She's not in here. So is there a name change, or did Maud pass away? I don't know till we do some more research. But look for everybody in the family. It's going to take you a while just to piece it together. So here we have that Benjamin is still the head of the house. Here's the wife, Mary. Now remember John? I don't see John. So what happened to him? Did he pass away? I don't know. Her mother was Annie. She's a daughter-in-law. She's 37, but I don't see John at all. So this is where the research becomes fun, when you're trying to figure out and try to piece it together. Where is John? Or then you go back and you just trace John to see what might have happened to him and see what other resources you can find. Again, you have the census that you can certainly open up. But since I already did it on Ancestry, I'm not going to open this one up. But here's the census record, again, that you can find. And you just keep going through just to find your information on Marion. I like images. You can, through Family Search, find an image of a place. Now, I don't know if this will work at all, but we're going to look for one image. Let's look for an image in South Carolina. And you notice as I put it in, it gives me something here. So we're going to search image groups, which is probably a lot of images of South Carolina there. And so we have plenty of things to look at through South Carolina and other images. So that's a very good spot to also use. So use the resources within each of these sites in order to help you to find out your information. Okay, we're going to stop sharing this. There we go. Okay. So we looked at the Church of Latter-day Saints. We looked at the Family Search. There's also, again, through Family Search, information on how to. So if you want to get started in family history, again, go to all of these how-to sites. Again, Family Search is free. You do not need to have any money to put down to pay for this. It is a free site to use. So now, where do I get a lot of my information from? Well, not only do I go through all these sites, but there are times when you get information and you click on and you say, yeah, I like that. So Genealogy Bargains is a site that I'm using now. And every day, it seems like something else is in my inbox from Genealogy Bargains. The gentleman that is in charge of this is Thomas McEntee. And it's free genealogy, it's charts, it's records, it's information. Sometimes it's even courses that you can take. So if you want to take the time to write that down, genealogybargains.com is a site that you might want to invest your time in to get more information. And Family Tree Magazine is another site where it has, as you notice here, it says downloads, ebooks, forms, state guides, and this is a genealogist's guide to getting organized. I have not downloaded this, but this is a large 65-page PDF file that you certainly could use. It doesn't cost you anything. It is free to download that and get more information. during the summer, I took 2 classes through their online service. I think I paid about $100 for 4 weeks of a class. And not only do you take the class, they give you a little quiz, but you're able to download that information from the class onto the computer. So you can always go back and use that as your resource. So there, again, free sources to use. I'm also a member of a genealogical society for African Americans. And so they have workshops every month that I take part in virtually. There are conferences all over the world that you may take. So the information is there. You just have to know how to access it. So let's review, see if I did what I said I was going to do in the beginning. So when you search, you start with yourself and you document your findings for yourself. Use a variety of genealogical forms that are free. Don't pay for anything if you don't have to pay. Look for those free websites. And be careful when you see the word free trial, because that means you're going to have to pay later on. As you search, do not use the exact feature. Don't push that, because the spellings can change so much in all of these census forms. So don't use that. Let them find your person for you. Find all those resources you want on the internet that gives you additional information. It is out there. You just have to do searching. And don't give up. You might hit a brick wall where you can't find that person. Do not give up. Find a different way to look for it. Go through city records. There are city directories you can find. Go through the death index, because you can find Social Security numbers there. There's other ways to try to find your family member. So sit back and enjoy the process. It will be so rewarding for you. And that will end my presentation.
That's great, Joan. Thanks so much. We do have a number of questions here that people submitted during your presentation, and let me compile a couple of them and ask you if maybe you can comment on them. Someone did comment that most of the 1890 census records were destroyed by fire in the 1920s.
Yes.
So if you're looking for 1890, you might have a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Someone else pointed
right.
out that their library has an Ancestry subscription that customers can use for free.
Yep.
So
That
that
is
may
true
be
too.
another resource instead of
Yep.
paying for Ancestry.
Yep. And I did that in the beginning, but I just felt that I like to be at home and be able to research. But yes, I started with the library, and you're right.
Someone said they're stuck getting farther back than maternal great-grandparents because they were Irish immigrants with names that were kind of like John and Jane Doe.
Oh gosh.
Any thought of how to get started with that?
Well, through Ancestry, they certainly do a lot of international research. So I would start back with them to see if you could get further. That's probably going to take a subscription or go to the library, but that's where I would start, through Ancestry.
Okay. Someone else says that they're Latinx, first generation American, both parents are immigrants, and a lot of indigenous heritage. What insight or advice might you have for people interested in genealogy but who do not have American roots and are indigenous and may not have access to as many records as we have here in the States?
Wow. You know what? That would probably be a question I would ask a genealogist to find out. I don't have enough background to be able to answer that. But again, look for some of these conferences that you may be able to go to, and also to find out, to see if you can ask a genealogist. Google, see if there might be one in your area that might be able to answer that question.
Would a historical society or a research center might be a place, if you don't have a local genealogist, go to the local historical society?
Probably, yes. Let's start with the Historical Society. I don't know if the Family History Center would help you, but Historical Society would. Where I volunteer, there are 2 men there I mean, they have genealogy at the top of their head. You know, they could just spew anything. So yeah, I would start there to see if that might be a resource for you. Yep.
Is there an ability on Ancestry to, when you find a person, just automatically add them to your family tree with a click or something, or do you need to retype everything?
No, you can add them on with a click. It'll ask you to, once you get on Ancestry and you have that person, you start feeding them in on your tree through your profile. Each person will have a profile. So let's say they're a father of somebody, then you add their name as father or whoever they are, and it automatically populates on your tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been having fun looking and seeing who's been asking these questions. So someone asked, with COVID, are there ways to access historical societies and research centers without physically going in?
No, ours has been closed since March. So unfortunately, I don't know of any that's open right now because you're in such close quarters and doing the research. So no, not right now. Can you get in
Okay,
there? No.
but you could do some of it on the internet, uh, and maybe get to some stopping points, and then when we finally get the vaccine, maybe we can get back in.
Maybe, yeah. That's the only hope you have it right now. Yeah.
Someone said that
Hmm.
their cousin sent them a file for the family. Is there a way to upload that file directly into one of these sites?
Depending on what the file is, I don't see, let's say if the file is an Excel file, probably not. You're probably going to have to take it apart and just add it manually to what you have. You won't be able to just upload the file because it's not going to probably give you enough information on that file for what you need. Yeah.
Do you have any idea where to look for military records, particularly Civil War and American Revolution?
Fold 3. That's another site. Fold, FOLD 3 is a site
Great.
that you can go for that. Yeah.
You, you are not certified as a genealogist, right?
No, no,
Do you know
no, no.
how does one become certified as a genealogist?
I know that there are classes that you must take. I'm sure there is an exam. I have not researched that because that's not the way I want to go. But yeah, but again, Google or do some research on how to do that. And I'm sure there
Okay.
are books for that. Yeah.
So someone asked, do you have to have a higher level ancestry subscription to connect with someone who's also been found on your tree?
In other words,
In other
yeah,
words, if
yeah.
some
If
like
you
there,
find if you find somebody on a tree, yeah, you're going to have to be able to get to the paid section of that to do that. You're not going to be able to do it with the free account at all.
there are a number of people here at the end that said chat's disabled, but thanks, Joan, for the information. That's what the Q&A is for.
Oh,
Thanks for the information. And and one that I've kind of saved to the end here. Thanks for a great presentation from Jonathan and Lynn. So
very good. Thank you.
President Green was there for the whole thing.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I am so glad. This kind of thing, I've been a teacher, I've been an administrator, and that's easy. This was tough. This only tough because you want to make sure that you're speaking well. You want to make sure that the information is clear. And even though you practice this at home, you keep thinking, oh man, I forgot to say this. Oh, I should have mentioned that. So you want to make sure that you've given them enough information that they can start. So I appreciate the opportunity to do this.
That someone else said Gen GEDCOM file for family
GEDCOM,
trees.
yeah, yeah.
GEDCOM.
Yeah. See, those were kinds of things I guess I didn't want to get into to confuse folks. So I was trying to just stay with the basic. But yes, you can do a GEDCOM to upload your DNA to other sites. Now, I only have mine on Ancestry. I have not done that yet. But yeah, you can use a GEDCOM. So there are some out there who could probably have done this presentation themselves. Very good.
How about getting death certificates, which sometimes list parents and birthplaces?
I have. You sometimes can get them off of Ancestry. If you can't, you have to go to the Bureau of Vital Statistics from wherever they passed away to get that. You have to prove who you are, and you can also get that information I think even for birth certificates, sometimes you'll just go to the Bureau of Vital Statistics from that area. Yes.
Great. Well, here's a question. Will there be a Genealogy 201?
Ah, oh gosh, you're making me work. Let me think about that. Let me think about that. And because with genealogy, you don't do it all the time. So I probably haven't done it for maybe the past 3 or 4 months or so. I just haven't gotten back into it again. So once you do, everything is like right there at the top of your head. I've been away for it a little bit longer. So let me think about that and see.
And someone asked if they have questions, is there a way they can contact you at some point? And Becky, maybe you were going to send her contact information out after this.
With her permission, we can certainly do that. Yes.
You can. Yes, that's fine.
I wasn't going to put it here because I think
Mhm.
this may end up on YouTube someplace, and who knows who could watch
Yes.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but we can
And
certainly do a follow-up email to all of the attendees.
and
Perfect.
by the way, Joan, Sherry Breton remembers you because she was a music major and SAI sister. So there you go.
Yes. Excellent.
She
Excellent.
said you've given her a lot to work with over the winter months. What,
Excellent. Yeah. And
one other
again, that's what happens. Yeah.
one other suggestion here is findagrave.com, and it's
Yes.
free.
Yeah, it is free. It is, and I've gone to that. And that's what's helpful. You find these other sites and you start clicking in on them and you get all this other information. But findagrave.com is right there. And you could sometimes people go out to grave sites and take pictures of the graves. And then they list them, and then you can actually see your loved one's grave site, which I've done a number of times. And I'd like to be that person that gives back. So I'd like to at some point do that, go to grave sites and just take pictures.
That's mostly done on Halloween, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. That's good.
That kind of exhausts the questions and the comments. Boy, thanks to everybody for the questions
Yeah,
that you and the comments you put in.
that's great.
Somebody else said Family Tree Maker works well with Ancestry.
And I have not used that, so I don't have enough background knowledge to be able to give you that. But that's good to know that you can use Family Tree Maker. Perfect.
Becky, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Joan. That was wonderful. We really appreciate your time and your
That really
expertise.
was.
And thank you, Dave, for leading us.
Yes.
And thank you to everyone who attended.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more of our webinars. Have a good night, everyone.
You
Everybody
too.
take care.
All right. Good night.